Hello beauties, I am live. There's always a great big light in the way. I think if I sit right here it might just, oh no, if I sit right here it might just be fine. So we are going to be speaking about boundaries and communication today. I'm just going to give, I could go on about this subject for such a long time. I'm just going to give a little introduction to the topic, talk about a few things. So in the votes, there were 3 ladies who voted for boundaries and 3 ladies who voted for communication. So that's the reason why I'm kind of doing a combination of both. As I said, I'm going to touch on both the topics slightly, so I won't delve into them too much, because that's really in the work, the private one-to-one work, which if you're interested as well, I will post later about how to book in a free session with me. I think it'd be really beneficial for some of you guys in here as well, just to kind of get some one-on-one time with me. So I'm first going to touch on boundaries, and then I'm going to touch a little bit on communication. So what are boundaries and why do we need them, and what type of boundaries are there? So hello if you've just come on, don't worry about what, you can watch it back on the replay. So I'm just talking about boundaries. Say hello in the comments so I know who it is. Is it Gail? Is it Mossy? Who is it gonna be? It's interesting because I never know. So talking about boundaries, and there are, for me, now it's different for other people because there might be some extra ones, but there are 7, yeah, got that right, there are 7 boundaries in which the sort of categories come under the subtitles. So the first one is physical, and this is really like how you are comfortable in your own physical space. So it's how close do you let someone get to you before feeling, well, that's a bit too much, or are you like a super like softy lovey touchy person? I'm a little bit of a combination of both. I'm a bit of a cat, so I'm like, touch me, don't touch me. So that's all about physical boundaries. Now, when I was working in supermarkets and stuff, I had a big physical boundary for people who would like, he would be like right up in your face, and I'm like, whoa, man, that's my space. Like, step back. That's a physical boundary. So they are different for everyone, and boundaries as well. They are not. They're not walls, and this is what people kind of get a little bit like, oh, but then I'm blocking myself off from people, and it's like, no, you can still give and you can still be flexible with your boundaries. You can still say, okay, today I'm feeling I've got a bit more energy for this, or this is okay with this person because I trust them more. So that's one of them. From there would probably go into more sexual boundaries. That's really what you are comfortable with, and now obviously this all falls under the bracket of consent and what you're comfortable with. So you would have maybe things that you like would find, yeah, I'm totally gonna do those things sexually. I'm down for that. That's fine. It's more sort of like your hard no's and hard yeses and things like that. But there are certain, boundaries, and that doesn't even come into like a physical form. It could be something that someone says to you sexually where you're like, no, or I don't like that pet name, or I don't like the way that you're speaking to me. It might even be a tone. Yeah, it could be like literally anything, because these are all like mechanisms and things that we have been programmed into, and we can kind of work with them and push the boundaries to see how far they can go and pull them back again when we want, because that's what we need to do as human beings to live in the 21st century. The next one would be a mental boundary. So this is sort of overtly expressive or not being heard in your kind of time and space. So like if you've just got the mental energy, for a certain amount of socializing today, that's a mental boundary, and that's it, right? Okay, I can do 20 minutes and then I'm going to leave. That's a mental boundary. Or if somebody comes to you with a problem and you're like, oh, I feel like it's going to go across my mental boundaries today. Yeah. So that's another one, mental boundaries. And again, it's flexible, it can change, but that's really up to you. Spiritual boundaries. Now, if you have a spiritual life, or you are spiritually, or I don't even want to use the word spiritual, because everybody is spiritual to a certain essence, whether it's a spiritual or a valued moral, which means that it's like something that is sacred to you, right? That's individual to you. So my spiritual boundaries are around energy exchange and energetic stuff. So that could be as simple as, like, for me, it's around like crystals and healing and time and space and touch and all those sort of things. But it could be like you lend a hoodie to someone, and you're like, oh, I need it back by next week or something, and they don't give it back in time. That's them crossing that boundary because there's some sort of worth in that for you, or you've set something and they've not done it, and it's it's possession, it's something that belongs to you, it's something that means something to you. So that's kind of the spiritual boundaries. It's like in the spiritual world as well, I believe that it's very like important to communicate what sort of energy you are extracting or giving to people, and that always comes with consent as well. Like, are you okay if I read you? Is it okay if I delve into this energy space for you? Would you like me to help heal something this way for you? Or you just don't go around like reading people's auras 24/7 and telling them that the spirit guides are gone partying and they're not bothered in you. Do you know what I mean? So you have to be aware of other people's kind of value systems and their morals and what they have built around them to protect them or make them feel comfortable in their own skin. The next big one would be time. So time is a huge boundary, especially for people who don't have more of a conscious awareness of it, who feel like time controls them rather than them controlling time. And that all comes into the assertive training and the kind of understanding time frames and being more assertive around it, which is a lot of the stuff that I do in my one-to-one coaching programs, and there's some really good people in there at the moment working on that stuff, so super happy about that. But yeah, time, where and when you spend your time and who you spend it with, like that's your own choice. Like, a lot of people feel that they, when they're in a place of disempowerment, that they owe people something, that they have to go to the thing and they have to give them their time, or somebody rings them and they have to be on the phone to listen to their rant for an hour. No, you don't. You can literally say, I'm sorry, I don't have the time for this today. To me, with me, I wouldn't even apologise. I would just say, don't have the time. And I think that it depends on who you're talking to and what the situation is, because I think there's a certain level of empathy that comes into it. But time and space boundaries are huge, especially if they're around people like our parents, right, or like strong relationship figures, or people that we idolize. We feel that we owe them our time, and like, time is such a valuable resource. Time is one of the most valuable at the moment resources there is, right? Once you spent it, you can't get it back, so it's just so important. So yeah, looking at that, and I'm going to come into the last one, which is self boundaries. So this is, I suppose you could look at it a little bit like self-care. So this is more like looking at the ways in which you reparent yourself, the self-love, the values that you have, right? So like, a boundary for me could be, I know that I need to take an assertive action of not going to bed later than like 11 o'clock at night, because I need to get a decent sleep, because I need to be able to look after myself. So it's that sort of like self-discipline and like self-care and love, and like taking yourself away from a situation and be like, okay, I'm going to spend an hour now, like, doing some meditation or just going for a walk or whatever. Like, it's that responsibility for yourself. So they are self boundaries. And that comes in with a certain sense of like structure and safety and all of these other things that we build into ourselves. So yeah, that was just a little brief overview, but they can go so much deeper. Now, I'm not going to go into that because that is the work, and that really goes into, but how do I look at these for myself? How do I build them up? How do I, implement them? And that's all stuff that I do in my one-to-one workshops, or what I'm going to be doing in the upcoming group. So if you're interested in that, send me a DM and I will put you into the group and get you started. So at the moment it is a group that's lasting just over a month, and each month we're going to work through different videos. There's going to be different workshops and stuff going on as well. So there's going to be lives, there's going to be access to me to ask me questions, to decode anything that you're struggling with as well, and that's going to be on the WhatsApp group, so it's 24/7. So at the moment I do have one place left for £250 for the whole course. So that covers literally everything: communication, boundaries, assertiveness, changing your communication style, relationships. Like, it's all super jam-packed of stuff. So if that's something that appeals to you, there is one more place for £250 for the whole month, and once it's gone, it's gone. So yes, speak to me about that. Let's speak a little bit about communication, because that was another one that you guys wanted to speak about. So a lot of our communication styles, now there's a few different communication styles. There's actually 4 different communication styles, and most women will fall into the passive communication style. So there's passive aggressive, and assertive. What we want to be is we want to be in the assertive one, right? Okay, we want to have clear, open communication. We want to be respected, and we want to be held. As we walk into a room, we want to feel like we've made an impact on people. Passives are normally people who have a lack of confidence. They're shy, they over-explain, they over-apologise, they have problems with small talk, connecting, and a lot of the time misunderstood. Passive aggressives, so a passive aggressives it's a kind of a push and pull mechanism, and it comes out of this sort of like attachment style that's more like anxious avoidance. So it's not really having trust in others, and kind of shying away from people or conversations. So they use a kind of dialogue that is aggressive to get attention, but then passive when it actually gets a response. So they've not stepped into that assertive communication style. And so we want to be really moving in from that passive to that assertive style. Aggressive as well is another one it's a very fighty response, aggressive. And I don't really think there's a lot of people that have an aggressive communication style 24/7, because it just wouldn't work. But there is a lot of people that will go straight into an aggressive communication style and completely get lost, and the message is gone, and it's just looked at in the way that it's been come across, and they've not come across in the assertive way that they want to at all, and that can lose a lot of connections and a lot of friends. So these are sort of skills that I'm working on at the moment in my one-to-one coaching sessions. We're looking at paraphrasing, rephrasing, the way that we use written communication, our systems, active listening, and these are all skills that I have learned, right? Because I was there. I was the person who was exactly in that shoes, but this is why I'm so passionate about the work that I do. So confidence is another huge one, and these really come into the 3 C's of assertive communication, and they're not that easy to get. And there's a lot of activities that I do in my work that really builds up these 3 C's, which are communication, confidence, clear, and controlled. And they're the 3 C's of assertive communication. And once you be able to develop those skills, then you get a lot more of a understanding in how you can change your communication style. And this will really like affect all of like your relationships, the way that you kind of communicate with others. It really goes like widespread. Like for me, it was like, right, I was able to stand up on my own 2 feet, like build my website, start to get clients, like understand like what my meaning and value and purpose is, like really get what I want out of people and not like waste so much time just going round and round in my head. Like it really just snowballed from all of that. And you really do like learn not just about yourself, but like how those kind of higher levels of consciousness make you so much more awake to the stuff that's going on. So yeah, and what else was I going to talk about? Receiving mechanisms. So this is the kind of like the filter, right, of like what we hear and what we translate it into. So if you have so for me, for many years for me, it was hearing something as an attack, or not understanding the context of something, or not understanding the tone of something, because the context and the emotion that I put into a message are completely different, right? And these are different for different people. So being able to, with your receiving mechanisms, to pay attention and like listen to the context and emotion and be able to split the two. So like sometimes, like I'm really good at it now, but sometimes like people will say things to us, and they'll say like, oh, I'll put that down there, but just make sure you don't tip it off, right? And it really depends on the tone of voice that you said that in. So if I said that like, oh, can you just put that down there, but make sure it doesn't tip off, would you be able to tell the difference between my tone of voice, the emotion, and the context? Because what we're wanting and what we're saying are completely different things. And when we don't have those skills, it's really, really difficult for us to actually demonstrate like an understanding of what is being said, which is just so vital to communicating with others. And yeah, it's really about like learning those skills. So one of the main things that we really, really learn is empathetic listening in my course, and how to really expand that. Like my attention span was never great on these sort of things. Like as soon as somebody would start speaking, my mind would be like thinking of all the things that I want to say to them, right? Because as human beings, we really want to be heard more than we sometimes want to be listened to. But it goes equal way on both parts, because actually the listening is what our deepest desire is. That's what everybody on the surface level really wants. We really want to be listened and understood. But the want for the expression, and the want for the wanting to really push a message out, becomes a stronger force, and then that's when we kind of lose all of the communication. It really breaks down our relationships. So yeah, that was just a quick little video on some sort of things. Like there's so much information on here, like that I could go into so much more, but I'm not going to go into that because, as I said, time is precious. And yeah, so I really hope that you've got something out of this. If you want to learn some more around the boundary work or the communication stuff, any of the things that I've spoken to about today, including how to kind of get function on your relationships, your life, your self-confidence, things like that, then do drop me a message. I will be posting later in the group as well the link to dropping into a free discovery call with me today. I have a few slots available, so today and tomorrow. If you are interested in something like that, that's something that we can really sit down and work through your own individual stuff. So let me know, and yeah, I hope you have a fantastic day. Take care of your beauties. Goodbye.